Okay, so I just wanted to give a few brief instructions about how to exactly do this lab because there's so much involved in the instructions. This is your burette. It's very expensive. You don't want to break it or damage it. Okay, there's a stopcock valve down here. This is your burette clamp along with the ring stand. The burette clamp is pretty easy to use. You basically just need to use one hand to kind of open up one side and then punch it in, go ahead and slip it in. Now, this might be difficult for one person, so you might want to try and use two people. Initially, when you get your burette, it should be in this position like this. The stopcock is open so that air can flow through. It's draining and it's dripping anything that's still in there. Now, you want to ensure that the burette is clean. So what you're going to do is you're going to get yourself your deionized water, your distilled water, and you're going to you're going to close the stopcock first, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to flush a little bit of water in there. You're going to fill it up so it's got about 20 milliliters of water, about that much, right there. Then you're just going to kind of put your thumb or your finger on the end of it. You just want to kind of roll it a little bit. This is to get out any of the sodium hydroxide that was left by the last class. It's going to be extremely dilute, so there's no worry about your thumb on the end there. Okay. Once you've got that done, you're going to go ahead and stick it into the burette clamp. And then you're going to take your garbage container. I'm using a beaker right now. I believe the directions say there's a large 250 milliliter Erlenmeyer flask. And you're going to put that underneath, and you're going to go ahead and allow that to drain out. That'll take a few moments. You can hear it draining very nicely. Alright, so once all the water's drained out, the next thing that you need to do, you need to close your stopcock, and you need to get your sodium hydroxide. Now, I'm using this directly from the stock bottle, but you are going to be taking this from a 125 milliliter Erlenmeyer flask that you have labeled already as sodium hydroxide. Okay. I'm going to use a funnel here because we do have funnels, and funnels are very helpful. So it has been stopped. I am going ahead and I'm going to fill it up most of the way here. Now, before filling it all of the way, this section under here underneath the stopcock doesn't actually contain sodium hydroxide. It contains air bubbles and it contains a bit of water. So what we're going to do to fix that is I'm going to drain out about 5 to 10 milliliters into the garbage beaker. So I'm just watching that. That looks like about 5 milliliters. That should take care of it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill up the remainder of this burette all the way to the zero line. Which brings me up to there. If necessary, you can use a disposable pipette to pipette exactly the right amount in that you need if you don't have exactly enough. Now remember, you can measure this to 2 decimal places. So I just measured it. I now have for my NaOH the start is 0.00 milliliters. Remember, all the way to the hundredths place, and you want to be sure of that. If you aren't exactly on 0.00, that's fine, but make sure you record that in your initial recordings in your lab data. Okay. Now, of course, the next thing to do is you're going to be getting your we got to change out beakers here. You're going to be getting exactly 10 milliliters of hydrochloric acid. Again, I'm using the smallest of my graduated cylinders because it's got the smallest graduations. I'm going to get the best measurement of 10.0 milliliters that I can out of this device. Sit down because in order to do this, I need to be at eye level. Again, using a second disposable pipette for that purpose. Do not use the same disposable pipette, because if you use the same disposable pipette, you'll contaminate your hydrochloric acid. Now this has an unknown concentration, but I know that my hydrochloric acid, my markers here, I know that my HCl, I have 10.0 milliliters of volume. I have a brand new clean, and if it isn't clean, you can clean it out using a little bit of distilled water. Probably rinse twice. Again, don't use Lockport water, because Lockport water may be acidic, it may be basic. Heck, it might be both at the same exact time. That's Lockport water for you. Alright, here we go. We've got our clean flask. It has a little bit of water in it, but the water is distilled water, so it's pH 7, so we're not going to worry about it. I'm going to add my 10 mils of acid, and the next thing I add is the the phenolphthalein. I need 2 drops of phenolphthalein, and again, you can clearly see that phenolphthalein leaves your solution being clear. I'm going to turn the burette clamp so that I can operate it with my one hand here, and we're just going to go ahead and add the sodium hydroxide dropwise. Oh, I've already done this once, so I've got a good idea of how much sodium hydroxide I'm going to need. Make sure to stir it every once in a while. That way, you know it's going okay. Now, one of the things that you're going to realize is that it takes longer and longer to turn clear again, the closer and closer you get to neutralizing, the closer you get to your end point here. So once you start getting it to take a little bit longer, you want to slow down and make sure to swirl and wait. There we go. So now that we've finished the titration, we can fill in what we know into the equation to solve for what the molarity of the solution is. Now we know that the molarity, we don't know the molarity of our acid solution, so we're going to leave that as M. We do know the volume of the acid that we used. We used 10 milliliters, 10.0 milliliters. Okay. The molarity of the base, well, According to the calculations here, we use 7.64 milliliters, so 7.64, and the volume, I'm sorry, that wasn't the molarity. The molarity was 2.0, the molarity was 2.00, that's exactly what the bottle says on it. And I'm sorry, the volume, which is what I pointed to before, is 7.64 milliliters. Now this is just algebra from here. 2 times 7.64, we're going to get 15.18 is equal to m times 10. All right, I picked 10 because I can divide by 10 in my head. All right, so we find out that the molarity of the acid is going to be 1.52 molar. At the end of class, when you're done with your burette, you're not going to leave sodium hydroxide in the burette because that's unfair to the next class. They don't want to come in and have a strong base already in there, so you're going to have to clean it out. So you're going to drain this into your garbage beaker. The contents of your garbage beaker eventually are going to go into a garbage beaker that I've got in the center lab station. Of course, you are going to want to try and clear this just a little bit for the next person. So you are going to put some water in there. Once you got some water in there, you might close it off, and you're probably going to want to go ahead and kind of swish it around a little bit, swirl it, and then drain it out the bottom. Okay, now be careful, you don't want to break this. It is about $100. Kind of expensive thing to break. You don't want to do that at the end of the school year. Okay, again, you're just going to kind of swirl it around a bit. I've got a little bit of particulate matter inside here for some reason, so I'm going to drain it one more time. What you're going to do is you're going to do this. You're going to go ahead and run it with a couple milliliters of water one more time. And then you're going to drain it all out. Once it's all drained, you're going to flip it over, and you are going to leave it on your desk like that, upside down with the valve open. That way the next class has that ready. Now, just because you walk in and it happens to be upside down with the valve open doesn't mean that the last person who used it actually cleaned it out properly. So you do want to actually clean that out properly, just like you're supposed to do.